Hellmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. See Hellmaster EX in action at a Yamaha Outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's January 9th. These are your headlines. I think the biggest headline of the week is just how cold and windy it's been. But that has had some safe ice creeping further and further south, and we've seen some really nice fish coming through the ice this week. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Before we begin, we've got a few news items for you guys. The first one, I just want to sort of alert you to a great show that's going on this weekend. It's on Saturday, the 11th. It is the Narragansett Surfcasters Surf Day. It's being held at 53 Mumford Road in Narragansett, Rhode Island. It's right next to the school. It's sort of an old school flea market type of a show. I really love the show, actually. Has a really good feel, has a really good old school vibe. And, you know, you've got a lot of heavy hitters as far as plug builders go. You can renew your Fisherman subscription while you're there. And there's tons of used tackle and antique plug collections. There's good food. It's a really, really great show. We had put on the website that it was a $5 entry fee, but it's actually $10. Just letting you guys know, $10 at the door gets you in. This is going to go from 8 to 2. Which is an hour earlier than it has been in the past. I think that's just to deal with the volume of people that have been going through this show over the last few years. Highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're a surf fisherman or if you're a plug enthusiast. You're going to find awesome new stuff, and you might dig around and find a great deal on something old as well. Next up, we're going to check in with Jenni Ackerman, and she has the wrap-up of her Surfcasters Challenge. Here she is.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat, and today we are at the winner's circle. You guys did it. Huge congrats to everyone who went out this fall run season and caught fish and took the time to send me their fish pictures to partake in the 3-part Surfcasters Challenge. Now, I have my laptop here with all the submissions, and we're gonna go through every single one, starting off with the first round, catching a fish on a sand eel teaser. Kicking it off, we have 2 striper entries from Bob Vendetti of New Jersey. We got 2 nice fish here caught on nice teasers, and then we're gonna continue our sweep in New Jersey with Carl Hodge. He has another nice one caught on a teaser. That was definitely the Ava teaser jig combo was the hot one for the fall, I could say for sure, with the mixed bait we had out front. Moving on to another New Jersey entry, we have Gary Solentine, and he wrote a nice message saying, I wanted to thank you for this, and I probably never would have caught the fish I caught yesterday if I didn't use a teaser. I was fishing the Northern Ocean County surf using a diamond jig and an eel imitation. After an hour, I finally hooked up to a 31-inch striper that I tagged and released, as I'm a member of the Berkeley Striper Club. I'm sorry, but I never took a picture of the fish. It's fine, you're good, no worries. I only took a picture of the teaser I was using. I was so busy measuring and tagging the fish. I forgot all about it, but this fish was caught on October 24th at approximately 5 p.m. Thanks, Gary. I love when people, like a lot of guys here, have included their little stories about the fish they caught too, and big cahoots to Gary for tagging and releasing that fish too. Love to see it. And also he sent us the picture of the teaser he used, so that's really cool to see. Moving on to Long Island, we have Joshua Severin, and he has a nice striper here, another sand eel Ava jig combo with a nice handmade teaser that he made. Love seeing the handmade work. Next up, we have Sam O, Certifiable on social media. Another fish caught on a handmade teaser of his with the good old Jason Voorhees in the background, a little spooky for the fall run Halloween fishing season. And then we have a Open Boat Fisherman magazine subscriber from North Carolina, and his name is Rick Bear, and he says that he watches the Fisherman reports from North Carolina to plan trips to see his family in Cape May, and he got his personal best last October, a 46-incher. And he also did great in the spring run. And he got this short on an eel teaser and an over slot on metal. And then 2 more days of fishing and then back to North Carolina. But we love to see it that our reports are, helping you out, getting you on fish and making you want to travel to get on fish. We love to see that. And then we're back over to New Jersey with Jerry and his son Eric. And this is a very cool picture. We have Eric laying on the beach next to a striper, all big smiles there. And this is a 46-inch striper that Jerry caught at Island Beach State Park. And the cool thing about it was the fish was caught on a teaser that his son Eric pictured next to the fish tied. And he's 5'6", so you can gauge the measurements of the fish here to see how tall that is. I always love seeing people do it with tuna, or they did it with makos back in the day, laying next to a fish to see how long it is. That's always a fun thing to do. Moving on to Long Island, we have Paul Rudolph. He caught this striper on the Long Island South Shore, a hand-tied lefty cray black deceiver. And Paul says that he mostly fly fishes, but when he can surf cast, he finds a teaser very effective. And he was using a 3-ounce Deadly Dick metal with it too. And I couldn't agree more. Sometimes, reflecting on this fall run season, we had fish that would not hit unless there was a teaser tied on. If you just had an Ava jig, they wouldn't hit it. And then if you tied a quick dropper loop with a teaser attached, then it would hit. It was whack. This is a very, very finicky fall run season that took a lot of patience and a lot of just focus and just reevaluating what you're throwing and stuff like that. But from the results of the Surfcasters Challenge, I can see that a lot of you guys were successful. Sticking to Long Island, we have Mike Brennan with his fish that he caught on another South Shore fish. I wonder if Mike and Paul are buddies here. He caught this short on a teaser and emailed me the next day. A lot of these guys I really appreciate. I logged in and I was getting email after email from guys catching fish literally that day or that night before and sending emails right away. So I really appreciate the swift response. And we're gonna move it back to New Jersey with a familiar face, even wearing the same beanie today. It's me. Yes, evidence that I catch fish. I mean, you know this, but I do in fact go fishing when I have time, and I did catch a fish on a teaser, a chartreuse teaser with a little bit of red flare on the bottom, kind of make it look like a wounded bait fish or like gill flare. I really because I used to tie and I still kind of tie a little bit. I'm getting into fly tying now, so pray for me, but I really like little attention to detail when I'm tying a teaser, like a little color flash, or if you add metallic hackle, it can make or break your teaser. And that's just me being a girly girl too. I like glittery, sparkly, pretty things. So there I am with my fish on an undisclosed beach location. Moving back to Long Island, we have Timothy Vess with a fish on a teaser, and that's actually, I like this one because it's a red head with black hair and has a cute little eyeball on it too. Going back to what I was saying with detail, and you can see the metallic hackle on that. Love to see it. And last but not least, we have Dana Malshagen. And of course, going back to everyone's names, I'm sorry if I butchered your names. I'm trying here, but I'm sorry if I butchered anyone's names, but you're all doing great catching fish. And here we have Dana with our last entry for the teaser edition. So congratulations, all you sand eel teaser fishermen out there. I am proud of you, and I'm very happy that you submitted your entries. And we're gonna definitely do this again. I loved the amount of subscribers and viewers that reached out and they shared their stories with me about their catches. And stay tuned for next week as we go back to the winner's circle for pencil poppers. See you guys next week.
Grady White is at the New England Boat Show now with 18 exceptional models on display. Come see us at booth A28 and take advantage of factory savings during the Chart Your Course sales event. Your local dealers are standing by ready to show you the boat of your dreams.
Last thing, of course, is a giveaway, which continues. I haven't gotten a photo this week, which is not really a surprise, but I want to also remind everybody that ice fishing photos are 100% eligible, and I love to get them. So don't be afraid to send me pictures if you dragged your fish through a hole in the ice. The only rules are it's got to be a recently caught fish, got to show you holding your fish, and I just need the pertinent details. You know, where it was caught, who the angler is, how big the fish was, you know, all the important stuff. Send that to me at danderson@thefisherman.com or text them to the number on the screen. And we'll get you in the contest, we'll get you in the report, and probably get you in the magazine as well. And if you're lucky, you just might win an awesome little prize pack. Giving away a flat glide needlefish made by me and some NLBN paddle tails. Get those photos in, and we'll see who wins.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
And before we get into the fishing reports, just want to make a general comment on the weather this week. It has been painfully windy, extremely cold, and that has made gathering reports a little tougher than normal. But there are still some, die-hard guys out there getting it done. So we'll start things off up in the North Country, Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And we are seeing a lot of safe ice up in this region. Now, some of the bigger lakes are still not safe. Some of the bigger lakes are still open. This doesn't mean that you can go to a smaller pond and just confidently trudge out onto the ice. You definitely want to, feel your way out with a spud bar, make sure that you're not putting yourself in a life-threatening situation. But the smaller ponds and the places in the lower lying areas are mostly safe. I know Nicole, or that Salty Blonde, she calls herself on Instagram. She was out celebrating her 30th birthday. I want to say happy birthday to her. And recognized these two great catches, nice big pickerel and a really nice largemouth bass there. Also saw Evan Camoan, another, he's actually a Connecticut resident transplanted to Maine, great fisherman. And he's been putting some really nice trout on the ice as well. So, things up that way. We're seeing a lot of ice fishing, seeing a lot of safe ice. As we drop down over the border into Massachusetts, we'll start things off with Kevin Huang from Surfland Bait and Tackle.
What's up, guys? Kevin from Surfland Bait and Tackle checking in for the fishing report for the week. Freshwater wise, a lot of ponds are starting to freeze up now. The shallower ponds are getting, to the right thickness to get out on. The majority of them, I'll be super careful because we need more of these cold fronts, more of these cold days to happen for the ice to get to the right thickness to be safe for guys to fish. But a couple of the guys that have been out, they got some trout through the ice and then some yellow perch. And then in the Merrimack, if you can find some open water, because there's open water and ice and mixture everywhere, you can still target carp. I mean, all winter long, if you can find moving water, non-frozen water, you can still target the carp. They bite all season long. And deep sea wise, one of the boats is going to be pulling soon. So I think their last trip is this weekend up in Seabrook. And they've been doing decent, hit or miss. Some trips are good, some trips are bad. And then the weather's been kind of iffy with all the wind. The ocean's been a little rough. It's been super cold. So if you can bear the cold, it's worth a shot. Even with the other boat out of Lynn, I would definitely check them out too if you want to get some fishing in before it gets extremely cold. But see you next week.
Now we're going to check in with Danny Parma from Fish Bucket Sport Fishing.
Thanks, Dave. Dan checking in. Not much going on this week. The weather's a little cold with the couple of storms we had. We were trying to get out on the party boats over the weekend, and the weather didn't allow that. But this weekend's looking good. Trying to make a trip on the American Classic, Walsh's Deep Sea Fishing in Lynn. If you're looking to get out there, that's one of the trips. I also think Eastman's in Seabrook is doing a trip this Sunday. So the weather's looking decent. Hopefully I can get out there and get some haddock and pollock. That's what I got for you. Stay safe, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.
now we'll kind of dive into Central Mass. I checked in with the guys at Jerry's Bait and Tackle in Milford. They said that there wasn't a lot of safe ice around the shop. So in right around the Worcester metro area, not a lot of safe ice. I suspect that there's probably more than maybe they realize. Just after living there for so long, almost half my life I lived up in Westboro. My guess is that most of the small to medium ponds are probably either safe or approaching safe. Good place to be testing with the old spud bar. But from what I've heard, there's not a lot of safe ice in Central Mass. However, when we get further west, it starts to become a little bit more of a fishable situation. And for a little bit more on that, we're going to check in now with Roy Leyva.
Hey Dave, Roy Leyva here with Western Mass Report. I do want to say that we do have plenty of ice anywhere from Western Mass all the way to the Berkshires. I do want to stress though that because of the high winds, it's actually kept a lot of the edges open. So getting on and off has been pretty tricky. It's also opened up a lot of spots on some of the bigger lakes and even some of the smaller ones or ones with moving water. So there has been a lot of accidents. People have been rescued, people have died, and so on. So I do say if you're going to come out here and fish, ice fish at least, take the urge of caution on that side and be very careful because, it's really not worth it. But we do have ice, and most places have anywhere from 3 to 5 inches, with some lakes that did not defrost during the warm spell that have 6 or 7 inches. Too many to name, but the fishing is strong if you can get out. Panfish, pike, the whole works. It's all going on strong. You just got to get out to those spots. And like I said, bring your spud bar, check on your way out, and be very cautious because it's just not worth losing your life for. So I will catch up with you guys next week. I'm going to get out this weekend, a little more extensive than I did this past week. So I'll have a better report for you as far as the fishing goes. Peace.
Now we'll head back toward the Cape, and by every account that I've heard, there is no safe ice to be had on the Cape or even, in the approaches to the Cape, sort of that Scituate, Marion, Plymouth, Carver, all those areas. Not seeing a lot of safe ice. There's a lot of ponds in that area, a lot of smaller ponds. There might be something out there you can walk on, but I think, we're going to need to wait a little longer, just kind of let the rest of this cold snap work its way through, and maybe we'll get a couple days on some of those small ponds. Out on the Cape, still seeing some open water. Not a lot of guys actually fishing the open water just because it's been so bitterly cold. But I do expect that, over the weekend, it looks like we're going to go back above freezing. We might even touch 40, which seems almost impossible at this point. But I suspect that, especially the trout fishing will pick right back up again. After it being so cold, it might be more of a bait thing. You might need to go out there with shiners or float a night crawler off the bottom. But I do think you'll be able to bend the rod out on the Cape. Heading back over the canal and, out to the western part of Buzzards Bay, I have heard nothing. I have heard nobody fishing, so that's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Crossing over into Rhode Island, we'll start things off with an East Bay report from TJ Kopecky.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, guys. I got a quick report here from the East Bay, a little bit of South Coast Massachusetts, out to Rochester. We're going to start. I've been working out there for the last couple of days, and as of Tuesday, you guys seen this video on Thursday, Mary's Pond, there is no ice. It's super low, which I think would concentrate the fish. It is a stock pond with trout. It's a good spot to fish. You can get out of the wind. There is some good parking on, I think it's Perry Street on the side. There's a parking lot that's dedicated to that, and you can walk this whole shoreline. The only reason that the water's low in this pond right now is because they fill the cranberry bogs in the surrounding area out of this pond. So it's a good spot to try because there's no ice, and there is no safe ice to get on out there. I just, can't say that enough to all you guys out there. But as it is in the East Bay, there's not much really going on. Earlier in the week, there was some perch bite and some crappie bite in Milford Pond before the ice came back in. And my friend Dave was out there. He did well on some fish. And he was just using night crawlers, and he did really well. So Narragansett Surfcasters has their show on Saturday. I will be there, and I hope to see you guys there. I will be in the Hook Gear booth with Todd Treones. So other than that, tight lines, guys, and we'll see you at the show.
Now, it's been tough in Rhode Island this week, just like it has been everywhere. We've had a lot of wind. We've had a lot of cold, bitter, horrible weather, big waves, nasty seas, the whole thing. Head boats aren't running. Really not heard of anybody holdover striper fishing this week or anything like that. The only thing I've heard is a few guys doing some freshwater fishing, mostly in coastal ponds, because the coastal ponds are still open, or a lot of them are still open, especially the bigger ones where you get a good gust of wind going across the lake. It kind of keeps the ice from forming. So some places like Carbuncle Pond or something like that out in South County might be worth a look. You may want to call a local tackle shop and just see if they've checked it before you drive all the way down there if you got to travel. But trout fishing is holding on just fine. We got a little bit of winter stocking going on. We had that Veterans Day stocking, which we're still kind of working off of, and quite successfully. But really, that's the long and the short of what I've heard from Rhode Island. It's mostly just guys hitting the coastal open water for trout, and sort of the head boat crowd just waiting for things to warm up and calm down a little bit before they can get back out there. Crossing over into Connecticut, we had that striped bass activity in and around the Thames River. Haven't heard of anything this week. Once again, it probably has more to do with the weather than anything else. I would guess that with this cold snap and so much small bait being around the area, that a lot of what was there will have moved up. So while you may have been finding fish outside the river or just inside the rivers, you may have to head up. You may have to head up the Thames River or the Pawcatuck River and find some of those deeper holes, or head up even to Norwich, where I'm hoping that we're going to see a holdover population for the first time, or at least a viable holdover population for the first time in several years. But we're kind of on hold as far as reports go. No one I know made the trip this week, and we'll have to see if the warm-up kind of brings them out of the woodwork once again. Heading out toward the Connecticut River, checked in with a few guys, and really the consensus seems to be that some of the smaller coves off the river have hardened up enough that they've been safe to fish on. Now, I tend to think, you guys know how I feel about ice fishermen. They're a different breed. They are probably the hardiest hardcore fishermen that we have in New England, and because of that, sometimes I think they push the envelope a little bit. So I would proceed with extreme caution on any of the coves of the river. But some guys have been out there doing it. I've seen some bass. I've seen some panfish. I haven't heard of any pike, but I'd have to guess somebody's got one. And, we got a few more cold nights here, which may lead to, it's going to be very windy though, but maybe we're going to get some thicker ice in some of these coves. First ice is always the best ice. And if you're looking to get that big pike, getting out there as soon as it's, reliably safe is usually the best course of action for tangling with that big fish. For a little bit more on that, let's check in now with Rowan Lytle.
We have ice. We also have wind. So, kind of in the Connecticut River Basin, a lot of the smaller farm ponds, especially at moderate elevations just away from the river, are getting some ice that is marginal, or at least a little bit safe for people on the lighter side like myself. Wouldn't recommend it for everybody, large groups, snowmobiles, anything like that, but we are at least working in the right direction with ice, and the weather over the next couple weeks looks like it should sustain it in some places. Whether the coves in places with current and tidal exchange get really good ice, Still yet to be seen. I am hopeful in that regard, but if you are going to get out and try and get on any of these bodies of water, do be careful, bring a spud bar, pick your way through, and be cautious, because although it's colder than it's been for a prolonged time, a couple years frankly, it's still not that real good long-term ice building weather quite yet. We'll see if it gets there, but yep, do be careful. Hopefully this stuff sticks around. We shall see. Good luck and stay safe.
Now we're going to head further inland, and the Farmington River, flowing body of water, so it's not going to freeze over. I'm sure they're dealing with some ice flows and some, still portions sort of skimming over a little bit, but I know that the fishing is still viable. And for a little bit more on that, we're going to check in now with Derrick Kirkpatrick from Connecticut Fish Guides.
Hi, Dave. Coming to you today from my office. From our last river report, we talked about this front that was moving into Connecticut, and not only was it going to be very cold, but obviously really high winds. And on those days, I find that it's best to stay indoors and tie some flies or read some books or watch some videos, and you expand your fly fishing knowledge when you can't be on the water. So I know in the past few river reports we've kind of named certain entomology that's present on the stream during the winter. I thought that this might be a good time to show folks what those flies kind of look like if you're not familiar. So the first is the Hendrickson nymph. This nymph will hatch into an adult in late April and into very early May. And it's one of the 4 super hatches that we get in the state of Connecticut. It lasts for about 2 weeks in a given section, although bugs across the state and across the world are on the downward trend of decline. So now our Hendrickson hatch can last for anywhere from a week to a week and a half in a given area, and hopefully that bounces back. But the fish are very familiar with these nymphs. During this time period, those nymphs run anywhere from a size 16 to a 14. When they hatch, those nymphs will be in the 16, 14, 12 range. So they're almost fully matured, full size. The next fly is just a midge, and this is a midge larva. Very easy to fly. Great beginner fly to tie. So you can just tie these out of thread with a little bit of wire and a bead, or you can get a little more intricate, but they all will work. Midges hatch throughout the winter. They're very small. When they hatch as adults, they can be anywhere in the 28 to 20 range, but the larvas tend to be a little bigger, and the midge pupa tend to be a little bigger than the actual adults. So an 18 could be like a 20 or 22. So it's important to have these midges in your boxes. There will also be some early stoneflies, which will be relevant all through the winter, but they're going to be in various sizes. So here's a stonefly that's very basic. It could be misconstrued as a mayfly. It can be very similar. It's tied to represent maybe a few things, but this one specifically does pretty good for the smaller stones that are present. So in that 18 size range. And then last is a winter summer caddis. This is more specific to the Farmington River, and not so much on your other streams. And the fish rarely turn these down when they hatch. When they hatch as an adult, they can be anywhere from a size 14 down to a size 24. Again, these larvas are larger than the hatched adult. So we will fish the larvas as seen here in like a size 16 down to a 22. And this fly right here, Winter Warrior, is very versatile. It can be, it looks very much like a winter caddis, but it also could be a one that's in one of its early instar stages. It could be a midge or an immature caddis larva. There's a lot of things that it looks like. So just very significant pattern in the winter when fishing small bugs on the Farmington for us. If you're looking to broaden your knowledge on fly fishing here in Connecticut, we have a Patreon channel, and it's Trout Tactics 360 on Patreon. We have fly tying videos up. If you've never tied flies before, there are lessons on how to tie flies. It's not very difficult. And on these cold days like we're dealing with right now, that can be a lot of fun to pick up a new craft. And there's a ton of other content on there. We just produced a hour-long video on longline Euro nymphing that's available for early release on there. So, yeah, if you're looking for something to do, there's another option for you. All right, Dave, stay warm. Back to you.
Now, we talked a little bit about how there was some safe ice up in the northwest corner of the state. We've seen that creeping further south. Definitely still plenty of safe ice up in that northwest corner. More and more guys are getting out on the ice. And while we didn't get a lot of reports this week, I expect that we will start to hear a lot more after this weekend, where we have a little bit more comfortable temperatures coming in. And this wind is finally going to lay down and allow these guys to get out there. You know, being out on a frozen lake with whipping wind is a recipe for a short and painful day. But this weekend looks like good fishing. We should get more reports. And remember, if you get out there and you get a nice fish, take a picture and send it in to me at danderson@thefisherman.com. You might win a great prize pack. I'd love to see those photos too. And then heading down toward the Housatonic. I have not heard many reports this week. Just a couple guys at the beginning of the week before it got really cold, and the fishing was holding on just fine. Seems like a good year for medium-sized striped bass with some pretty good-sized fish. Over 40 inches mixing in at times. And for a little bit more on all that, let's check in now with Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with another local fishing report. This past week with the wind and the cold, it made it hard for anglers to get out locally, but we did see, for guys that did get out, we did see some northern pike and tiger muskie taking on the Housatonic while they were striper fishing. That was pretty cool. I did see some stripers, in that like 15 to 25 pound range at night, guys throwing their favorite soft plastics like GT eels, sluggos, paddle tails, and the GT eel paddle tail. Those seem to be the two really kind of popular baits this time of year on the river. Guys didn't really go out on the boats that much. I didn't hear that much because the weather was so bad, but the ones that did get at night from shore, they did cash in on some nicer fish, and it seems like the concentrated fish were definitely above the Merritt Bridge. Locally in the Salt, we are still hearing of some whispers, some herring in Black Rock Harbor, Stanford Harbor, and then sporadic, in the Norwalk Harbor, sabiki rigs this time of year. It's good to kind of bounce around. I would definitely concentrate on the high incoming and high outgoing tides. This might, increase your chance with the fish moving with the, tide in and out of these harbors. And other than that, the ice is starting to get thicker in some spots, so I'm sure next week, with this cold coming through, we'll definitely hear some good ice fishing. Thanks and good luck.
And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. It's kind of a lean week with this cold, windy weather. But still plenty of options out there, and especially if you go after stock trout, whether you do it through the ice or with a rod and reel, I think you got a pretty good chance, regardless of where you live, at putting some fish on the bank. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com. You get a full taste of what we offer. We cover all the fishing. Ice fishing, surf fishing, all of it. From Delaware to Maine. We cover all the angling disciplines. We do some travel stuff that reaches outside the region. We do lure building, rod building. We cover everything. And it's $31.95 for the year. It's the best $32 you can spend in fishing. That's a fact. You're going to get 12 paper issues sent to your house. You get 26 digital editions sent to your email during the season from April to November. You're going to get weekly reports from us. You're going to get weekly video reports like this. And you're going to get digital access to all the back issues, plus our other 2 editions. So if you sign up for the New England edition, which is the one that I work for, you will also get digital access to the Long Island Metro edition and the New Jersey Delmarva edition, which is, 3 magazines for the price of 1. Head over to the website, check it out. I'm sure you're going to be convinced, but if you're not, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing right there so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.